right, we're here at my urban worm bag, and last time we were in here, we put down this awesome burlap, and we put the sock in here to make sure there was no worms in it, and I've been checking on it, and I think we're good to go. So this burlap went in pretty dry, and right now it is wet, and I am really excited to see if we have some worm action underneath, and sure enough, check it out, we've got all kinds of worms going on the surface, so I am pretty happy with how this is doing, and we are going to revisit this. Oh man, that is excellent. We usually don't see them right there on the surface. And last time we were in here, we gave them a pretty good spread out feeding before we put all this damp cardboard on here, and they are into something right here. I am right away running into a bunch of worms. Let's kind of dig under and see what we've got here, because this is amazing. Check that out. We have caught them in the act. This is 16 days since we're in here, and check it out. This is a bunch of bananas. That's right. We put in some whole bananas that my mom had given us, and they are all over it. I'm glad to see that, because if you put too much bananas in and the worms don't get to them right away, it can turn into alcohol, and that can really foul up the bin. Bananas have lots of sugars in them. So this is great. Check it out. Check out all these worms right here. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that right there. So cool. All right, this is going to be a good check-in, I can tell. And let's kind of go over what we fed them last. And last time we were in here, we started by putting some uneaten remnants from our last harvest. Then we put down some ripped up egg cartons. Next, we added some of my mom and dad's food scraps, including green beans and lettuce. Then we added some of her banana peels, whole bananas, and cucumbers that went bad. We also added a whole bunch of our own food scraps that we collected over the last few weeks. I'd say we eat more of our food than my parents do. After we dumped in the whole container, I discovered that I had collected some shrimp shells and a muffin wrapper, so we spread those out in the bin. Overall, it was a pretty big feeding. Finally, we dumped in the rest of our worm chow, sprinkled on some used coffee grounds, and dumped the rest of the container on the side. And of course, we spread some eggshell grit all over the top. Then we topped it off with damp shredded cardboard in our burlap sack experiment. So let's keep digging in and see if we find any of that stuff.
You have worms all over your hands, so put that hand back in.
All right, and I'm getting instructions to put my hand back in the bin because I have worms all over it. And let's see if there's any shrimp shells. I know we put them right down here, and that looks like, I don't know, that could be a tomato piece. I thought maybe here's something shiny. Nope, I think they ate through those shrimp shells. We'll keep digging around, but I also want to see the muffin lid, and I think this right here actually is a shrimp shell. That is looking like something that could be right here. It's harder. It's not like filmy like this is, which could be from tomatoes. This is definitely harder and firmer. So looks like they're not intact and that they are all over. And I think over here is where we had the muffin wrapper, but we'll keep looking around. Let me go down over here. I know we had spread some coffee and it feels just slightly warmer. The temperatures are really cold, and wow, there are just worms all over here. I account for this partly because, oh, look at that. We had an avocado inside an avocado, two-story avocado. Let's see if there's any in the ground floor here, just like that. And sure enough, we've got some right there. Very cool. So it has been pretty cold out the last couple weeks since we've been in here. So any little bit of residual heat is definitely welcome. And internally, the coffee grounds are a little dry towards the center, but on the edges, we've got lots of worms, so they're still getting into it. And we'll go ahead and spread that around as we check the rest of the bin, but things are looking fantastic. We'll go to the sides here. Yeah, there's some tiny worm balls kind of scattered all throughout. And here's some of the bedding that we had. This is just some soiled paper towel, it looks like. And this right here is the pumpkin stem. It does feel more hollow. In fact, it feels very mushy compared to a typical pumpkin stem that I've had in here. Check that out. I can just rip it apart. I have not had a pumpkin stem this flimsy in a long time. That was from our pumpkin experiment that we did about a month or two ago. Very cool. Let's dig down to kind of find out where the layer is that we're kind of getting down to castings. And it looks like it is probably about halfway down. So that's great. Things are looking good, and I'm definitely going to be able to harvest again in February. We harvested a couple weeks ago, and that was mid-January, so I think we're going to be able to keep harvesting once a month. And if I can get 20 to 25 pounds once a month, that will be fantastic. Yeah, things are looking good. We're definitely getting a good mix of castings, coffee, and bedding in the form of this shredded cardboard. So very happy with how things are going. We do have a lot of these avocado shells, and I just kind of break them up as we go. Eventually they get mostly broken down, but a lot of times I'll see them in the castings. I thought maybe this was a breeding pair, but it's just a worm with a pretty bulging clitellum right there. This is a red wiggler. Looking good. Got the orange tail and bulging clitellum. All right, this right here is an avocado pit. I will attempt to break it, and yeah, just as I squeeze it, I see some juice, and just like that, very easy to break apart. All right, let's go ahead and keep digging, and yeah, things are just looking fantastic all over. So let me dig around, and we will be right back to feed after I get everything mixed up really well. Oh, check that out. Another one of those avocados and a ton of worms in there. So we have spread everything out and kind of flattened it out. And here's some of the stuff that I found. I'll just kind of put that in the center. And one of the things I noticed is the egg cartons that I ripped up, there weren't a whole lot of them totally intact where I could identify them. So I'm pretty happy with how that is going. So what we're going to do is give them some more kind of big bedding like that for their bottom layer. All right, so we'll go in with some of these cardboard tubes just like that. And then we've got this box that we just kind of gather stuff in throughout the week. And I'll spread that out just like that. And then we'll put our food scraps right on top of this because we have so much volume in here that over the next few months, they're going to be able to get to this and eat it all up, I hope. And me mixing it up is also going to help things out. All right, so the executive producer said that I can give a big feeding. So that is what we're going to do. This right here is a lettuce stalk from the garden. And then all kinds of saved up stuff here. So let's see what we got. We got all kinds of strawberries. I'm loving our strawberry patch. It is producing well for us. We have been eating lots of bananas, so we got lots of banana peels. I don't think we have any whole bananas, so that's good because the bananas that they were attacking was probably enough for this bin right now. And lots of more avocado shells. We've got some orange peels. They seem to have been doing well with the ones that we had in there previously, so that's good. And then we've got some apple cores just like that. This looks like a pretty good feeding for them. But the executive producer said we can give them a big feeding, so I'm gonna put in a lot of potato peels here. And one of the things that you should do with potato peels is freeze them because depending on how big the peel is or whether or not it has an eye on it, it might grow in your worm bin because the worm castings are absolutely fantastic for growing new plants, seeds, and, you know, all plants.
That's going to free up some space in the freezer.
For sure. Now, if you are a coffee or tea drinker, you can use your spent tea grounds and your spent coffee grounds in your worm bin. So that's what I'm going to do right here by spreading it out just like that. Now, these tea bags, I think are biodegradable and the worms will eat them, but we'll find out. And let me put a bunch of this in. In fact, I think I'm going to put it all in. Coffee has been doing really well in our worm bins, and because it's wintertime, I'm not afraid of putting too much in because it's not going to heat up my bin that is already hot from the summer heat. So there we go, just like that. And I got a dirty hand, so I'm going to use this napkin right here to clean it off just a little bit for us, just like that. And then let's go in with a bunch of eggshell grit. Again, the coffee's not required in your worm bin. Eggshell grit is not technically required, but man, does it help balance your pH and buffer it and gives the worms some grit in their gizzards so they can break their food down, and it's great for your garden. So man, this bin is really doing good for an outdoor winter bin. The worms are really eating a lot. I think I have somewhere around 10,000 worms in here, and they're doing a fantastic job. So let's empty this box totally out with all these egg carton scraps. And even though all the bedding that I've put in here is dry, we've got a pretty wet feeding, and we've got our secret weapon right here. Put our burlap in there, and I have been real impressed with how damp it has been keeping the inside of this worm bin. When we pulled it up, there were all kinds of worms in here, and I have actually been taking a peek throughout the week. I can't help myself. So I'm loving this burlap, and thank you for everybody that mentioned using burlap in their worm bins. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, hit that subscribe button and give me a like. And if you want to see 4 things I look for every time I feed my worm bins, check out this video right here. And I want to give a quick shout out to anybody that's been using our Amazon links. It really helps out the channel buying new lighting, cameras, and equipment. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing fantastic. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.